Hello, and welcome in to Bear With Us by Bear Claw Media. I'm Chris Bolin, and unlike just about always, I'm not joined by Ben Schleiger this time. Instead, I have my partner in crime, the voice of the UNC Bears for 93.5 Pirate Radio, Jacob Govero. Jacob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, brother. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Yeah, of course. Excited to talk some basketball. For everyone who doesn't know, Jacob play-by-play for UNC football starting this season and also men's basketball, and he was nice enough to ask me to tag along from time to time to do some of these games. So and honestly, we have a pretty big road trip to recap here. UNC sweeping Montana State and Montana, two kind of completely different games. But really bummed I wasn't able to make it. But anywhere, was there any points in that trip that stood out, or anywhere you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we could talk about the Montana State game. As far as like things that stood out, I would say it was cool to finally get the opportunity to really spend some real time with the team and the coaching staff. I've traveled with them. There was a nice 3 hour bus ride from Bozeman up to Missoula through the mountains, which is absolutely beautiful bus ride. Notwithstanding a few bumps and a few narrow turns in there. Coach Houston Reed laughing about about a couple of narrow turns, but yeah, I would say that would be the highlight. Honestly, was just the opportunity. You know, we as the broadcast team, you know this, we're there, we're involved, we're a part of the action. But we're a little bit removed from the actual team. They're doing their thing out on the court and on the bench, and we're doing our thing over on the sideline, and to just kind of be able to joke around with the players and talk with the coaching staff about stuff. That experience, I think, was definitely different, and the most probably aside from the wins and that epic come from behind victory, that's probably what I would take away from it the most, was just that experience, being able to like I said, just kind of be a part of it, really just feel like part of the team and the group.
That's funny because as you would text me throughout the weekend, because I was supposed to go, but we had something come up with our dog. I wasn't able to make it. But I'm not here to cry about that. But what I am here to cry about is that this trip, like, it sounds like it went exactly how I was hoping it would go in my mind, except I just wasn't there, you know? but that was really cool. One of my favorite parts about this coaching staff, from starting with Smiley all the way down, is like they're so like inviting. They seem so just, I can't think of the exact word that I'm trying to, but they're hospitable. They're like happy that we're there. They're like, anything we can do for you, kind of help out type of mindset, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, inviting, approachable, all those positive words that you can say. Yeah, I mean, Coach Smiley, he talks about it. He was the coach of the year last season in the Big Sky, and we were chatting about that when we were in Missoula, and he's humble, and he gives all the credit to his coaching staff. I mean, obviously, Coach Smiley's the figurehead, and he's got his plan that he's got the guys executing, but he was the first to say, he's like, I have weaknesses. He's like, I'm not strong in every aspect of every part of every game. He goes, and you got to put together a coaching staff that can highlight your weaknesses and become strengths for you. And I think that's what he's accomplished. I mean, you talk about someone like Dorian Green, played at Colorado State, from Lawrence, Kansas. You want to talk about basketball pedigree. One of the all-time leading scorers at CSU. Great guy. Fun to watch him coach too. Fun to watch him coach in practice. He really gets in there and brings a certain level of intensity without not by being a jerk, obviously, but just like being intense and really trying to get the guys to buy in to what they're doing, and that just goes down the line. Coach Houston Reed, as you know, you guys have a long history in the past with your relationship with him. DC, Coach Campbell, Coach Clope, and then Colin Gauss too. So it's a great group. They are very approachable. They're inviting. They joke around, and you can see that they have a relationship with the players as well. It's not just a coach player type of a situation. They care about the guys, not just as team, not just as players, but as students and as people. Multiple times reminding the guys about classes and about their stuff, and it just was, just to, like I said, sit on that bus and kind of see those interactions. I would say was definitely something that stood out.
It's like a really interestingly put together staff too, it seems, because Smiley's a Denver guy, grew up in Colorado. Like you said, Dorian Green went to CSU. Houston Reed coached it down in La Junta, coached high school in Colorado before then. And the Collins, an alum. Clopeful coached at Greeley West High School before. It's like a weirdly local staff, and I feel like you don't get that a ton at the college level.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to our football season with Coach Lamb, him trying to do kind of that local talent, Colorado in-state recruiting. Um, I think that just helps and is just a strength for the Bears because we know that there's a lot of solid Division One level or high school basketball players in the Denver Metro Front Range and the Western air slopes as well. You find those diamonds in the rough out there, those guys that are playing at smaller schools and stuff. And I think for them to have that local flair about them just is a strength. You look at some of the guys from like Colorado Prep. I mean, Langston Reynolds, Brock Wisney, Zach Block, these guys that are local Denver Front Range guys, and here they are as juniors, seniors, still thriving and flourishing rather at UNC, and the cornerstones of the university as far as the basketball program right now, and especially with the day and age of like the NIL and the transfer portal and things like that. It's nice to have that local connection for the coaching staff. I think to be able to just build that that family unit in the locker room with the players. So they want to stay here. They want to play. They want to turn UNC into a basketball power and not have to worry about taking off somewhere to chase a deal or personal stats and stuff like that.
It is. It's interesting because Lamb has mentioned that's how he wants to build the football team, but kind of just under the radar, the basketball team ended up put together like a lot like that. Because even Quinn Danker's not necessarily a Colorado kid, but his family has ties to Marcel McCreary coming from Air Force. Like that's something I hadn't really thought too much about. But yeah, let's get into some actual basketball here. That Montana State game that almost gave me a heart attack at home. So I can't imagine. You said they kind of put you. I couldn't see you on the ESPN Plus broadcast. They had you up like in the second row, kind of with some fans almost.
Yeah, I was right in the heat of it, baby. I was in hostile territory to say the least up there in Bozeman. Yeah, normally you've got the front row where we sit on press row, and I was actually one row up into the stands, and they had a couple of tables kind of set up right there and hooked in. So I was right at the end of one of the rows, basically right behind where we would normally sit, kind of just caddy corner to the coaching staff. And there was no one next to me, but directly behind me. I mean, I was essentially sitting in the first row seats, and then I had fans like in my ear, the second row right behind me the entire time. Which honestly, you know me, that just being kind of a part of it, being able to engage. I'm never shying away from, kind of playing back and forth, whether it's with the coaching, the officials, fans, things like that. And then immediately on my left was the UNC fans, the boosters and stuff that had made the trip up to Bozeman. I know there was like 30 or 40 of them, some of the bigger boosters that had come up to help support the team. And so where I was sitting was right at the end of the row, and then there was the walkway up, and then our set of fans started. So I would look to my left, and I'm pretty animated depending on what's going on. So especially during that run, I'm throwing my hands up, I'm turning and essentially doing broadcasting at our fans, and they're turned around at me. They love that stuff. They love that shit. I can cuss here. I forgot
You
about
can't. Hey, let them fly, baby. Let them fly.
I've got to catch myself so often when I broadcast, but I totally forget. It's free reign for once. So, good Catholic boy. I'll
Yeah,
still.
fuck it, man. Say whatever you want.
But it was cool. Like I said to the fans, and they love that too, being able to engage and kind of be a part of the action a little bit, and it just hypes them up even more. And honestly, it just goes to what I always say as far as my role, our role is. I feel like I'm tried to be the biggest cheerleader, for the program, whether it's basketball, football, whatever it is. Yeah, we're analysts. Yeah, we're play-by-play guys. Yeah, we're supposed to talk sports, but in the end of the day, I just feel like my job is to just hopelessly love and promote the team that we're broadcasting, and that's what's fun about feeding off of the home crowd or the traveling boosters, and just kind of get them pumped up because I know that, like I said, they love that. Makes them feel more part of it as well instead of just being watching the game. They're like, oh yeah, that's right, we're going crazy, and yeah, so it was cool. It was a little weird though, being with in the fans though, because especially like I said, when we started making that run, and you know me, baby, I'm not
Oh
quiet.
yeah.
I'm not quiet at all, and especially whenever I'm pumped up and excited. And they weren't like, "Oh, we're gonna drag you out here and kick your ass," or anything like that. But there was definitely several points throughout the game where I would say something, and I would hear from the peanut gallery, "You don't know what you're talking about," or "That wasn't a blah blah," And I like when Coach Smiley's getting worked up, and they're like, "Oh, quit your crying, Coach," that stuff. So you just little, like I said, little peanut gallery comments, but yeah, it was a trip for sure to be kind of seated up there, if you will.
I feel like it couldn't have been a better game to like have that happen too. It probably sucked real bad about 13 minutes left in that second half, but after that, once the tide turned, and I think it helps it like adds something to the broadcast, whether or not it's picking up like I don't know. There's just a different energy because you did it. I know South Dakota, you did the same thing. I think to an extent at DU, some of these road games where UNC has a bit of a contingency there, you're kind of like throwing the hands up like, let's go, baby. So
Yeah,
I
it's
could,
fun. Absolutely, it's fun to just like I said, it's fun to engage. You and I, we're both former athletes. Well, maybe still current athletes, but former competitive athletes.
I
We
appreciate you lumping me in when you say that.
Well, no, we played basketball, and I mean, I like to talk some trash and like to get involved back and forth with whatever was going on. And I'm assuming you enjoyed getting in and mixing it up as
Oh
well.
yeah.
So, being older now, I mean, you're still kind of a kid, obviously, but being older and several years removed from that atmosphere or whatever you want to say about being involved in it, it's fun to still kind of just like be a part of it in some small way competitively, just to kind of engage and ham it up. And yeah, we're here to have fun. So that's what we try to do.
No, I've been thinking about it is like kind of on those road trips. I'm like cosplaying as like a member of a Division 1 basketball team. Like not quite, but they let us eat the team meal with them. Like you, especially going on the bus this last trip, taking like the half court shot at shoot around. It just like I don't know what my point was there, but I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiment. It's
Well,
nice to kind of get those juices flowing again just a little bit.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we're all part of it. That's why we're there is to kind of be a part of something, not glom onto it or make it about us,
Oh
but
yeah.
to be involved and to contribute to it and to be play some small role in being a part of the team. I mean, that's the idea of being fans and fanatics, all that sort of stuff is you want to be a part of something cool, something special. And I think I mean, not to knock on all the wood got in here in the area, I feel like that might be what direction that this ball club is going in.
Yeah, I was gonna say this perfect year to kind of to take over these duties because Smiley's had these guys, and even before him, Linder. UNC's been a solid basketball program, but there seems like something different about this team. This team's like a kind of a step above even like it even feels like a step above the team that won the CIT back in, I think, 2018. Um, but yeah, so 7 deep, really, Marcel McCreary was the man of the hour in that Montana State game. I know he's been one of your guys all year. I think he's Garrett's guy. He
Yeah,
seems like
he's
he's Garrett's guy.
he's a Tits boy for sure.
He's such an interesting player because, like, I not in like I don't really know what he does all the time. He's always doing something, but it doesn't seem like he has a specific role. It's always like kind of malleable and like kind of what the team needs. Like Montana State took over CU game in overtime, kind of same idea, took over, hitting a couple big threes. Just having a guy off the bench that can do that is just incredible at this level.
Yeah, I mean, I call him Mr. Intangibles, and that I think that maybe even does. I don't think it does him a disservice. I think it speaks to his versatility and his skill set. Yeah, G loves him. Obviously we all love him, but G's like, man, he's like that Marcel. He's like, we like to say he gets his hand in the cookie jar. You know, regardless of what way he's doing it, whether he's getting you that steal, getting you that rebound, forcing the action, throwing some defense out there and disrupting what the other team is doing. He always seems to make an impact, regardless of what is going on in the game, whether we're up by 10, down by 10. He just kind of gets in there and mixes it up. And, that fucking Montana State game, man. Maybe he's just unconscious. It was incredible. It was so cool to watch it happen out on the court because you love him so much because he's that guy that gives you that. He's like that. He's like that guy at the Y that's the hustle guy that you just hate because he gets the rebounds or gets the steal. But this dude can ball. Like he's not just out there getting a hustle point. He's actually that good. And Coach Smiley, to his credit, has said, and we talked about this in Missoula, and he's like, man, Jacob, he's like, I had to apologize to Marcel recently. He goes, because he hasn't been getting playing time. He's like, just because the way games have been flowing and the way the guys have been playing, you know how coach is, go with the hot hand, if the
Oh
lineup's
yeah.
working, that sort of thing. And Marcel just hadn't been finding himself time out on the court. And excuse me, it was his time. His number was called in that Montana State game. He came out there. We're down by 20. Coach is trying to mix some things up a little bit. Brock was in foul trouble for some bullshit like usual. So I tried to tell him, I'm like, man, you got to start earning these fouls. Like all these soft ass fouls on you all the time. Like you need to start fucking hammering and doing something. But yeah, Brock got in foul trouble. Lineup just wasn't rolling. And Marcel came out there and just, fucking beating his chest. And all of a sudden, dude, he was just, it's like NBA Jam, baby. He's on fire.
He literally was. I don't want to compare him to Russell Westbrook because they're not like super similar in how they play, but they feel like they bring just that like chaotic energy that sometimes a team just needs. Like grab the ball off the rim and just go 90 feet to the bucket. He's a dog. Like I feel like the internet word works in this situation. He's just a dog.
Yeah, you nailed it, brother. He's a dog. And that's right. And I like the comparison because I love me some beast. Um, that's an accurate depiction of it. He's maybe not the high flyer, but don't sleep on him. He'll throw one down on top of you as well if you give him the opportunity. We've seen him doing it, but yeah, he just has that energy about him. He's he's trying to get his hand in there. He's trying to get that steal. He's definitely crashing the boards and looking to go coast to coast, and whether he's passing it all out and facilitating, whatever it is. But boy, that last 12 minutes and 43 seconds of the Montana State game was something special. And not like I said, as athletes, you think back on those games where you were like, man, I was in the zone. Probably scored like 8 points, or grabbed a couple of rebounds and got a few assists. But man, he was locked in. I think he scored 21 points total, as we know. but he scored 18 points in the last 12:43 of the game. And the Bears went on a 40 to 19 run to end that game, to come back from 20 points down. And it was Marcel McCreary, and he went 4 or 5 from 3-point land on way to those 18 points, and like literally helped will the team back. I mean, he was making shots. That's what he was getting in there. He was getting steals, doing all the things. I'm looking at his stat sheet here. Two
Ooh, nice.
two steals, an assist, a couple 3 rebounds, 21 points, 8 of 11 from the field. And I think his one he had one miss, 1 3 that he missed in that run towards the end, but it didn't matter. It was a thing of beauty to watch and to call. And you mentioned about me being up in the fans, they were fucking just stunned. I mean, a couple different times it was completely quiet in that gym, other than me running my mouth about how we were coming back and beating this team. And it was a thing. It was, like I said, it was something special. It really was to be a part of that game.
No, that was an all timer because Coach mentioned it too on the post game a few years ago. A very similar situation. Bodie Hume hits a 3 to go up 2 with like 4 seconds left. They call a timeout, and it was Raekwon Battle, I think was his name, who ended up going to West Virginia. Great Big Sky player. I think player of the year. Nailed from the logo, basically, like the volleyball line if it was a high school court. But so that one, my butthole was tightened when that 3 went up. I was just so happy to see it not go in.
Well, they had plenty of time too. Langston Reynolds, I mean, reigning player of the week for the third time. Langston had 4 points the last last 30, 40 seconds of the game, scored the last 2 buckets for the Bears, and he put a layup in. Beautiful, beautiful dime by Jaron Reilly in traffic, as usual, finds Langston, cuts to the lane, lays it in off the glass, and you looked up and there was 3.8 seconds left. And I mean, you might be too young to remember this. I watched it live, but we all know who Christian Laettner is, and
Oh yeah,
that's when we learned that it takes less than a second to get a shot off. Because Christian Laettner was the one that hit that game winner that they slowed it down and was like, no, he got it off. And so 3.9, 3.8 seconds, and then they set it to 4 after a review. That's more than enough time to dribble
oh,
down the court, pass the ball, and get a shot off. And that's exactly what they did. They got a pretty decent look from the corner. And yeah, you want to talk about a sphincter says what? Yeah, we were all clinching, and as soon as that ball clanked and bounced out, I mean, there was like 40 people that lost their shit. And then the rest of them were just fucking stunned, just absolutely just like stunned at what they had just seen unfold. And what was it, 83-82, baby, game
yeah,
over. And it was great. It was absolutely great. It was fun to beat Montana State at home, get the road win for the Bears, because the road is always tough to win on, especially in the Big Sky. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful deal there.
well, they carried the momentum of that last 12, 13 minutes of Montana State into the first half of really the whole game against Montana. If you saw me looking, I had to pull up a tweet. 83-45 from that first, I think it was the first Marcel McCreary 3 in that Montana State game to halftime of the Montana game. Just almost doubled up the two Montana schools in that like 20 or 32 minutes and change. Just so the two teams picked to finish first and second in the Big Sky. Just like I didn't bet it because I couldn't force myself to bet against UNC. But of all the college basketball games, it was Montana -3.5, and that was like my favorite line because I was just like, after Montana State, like I don't know if the energy's gonna be there, and they just completely proved me wrong. Like they made me look like an asshole.
Oh, come on, now, don't sell yourself short.
You're like, you make yourself look like an asshole, buddy.
I couldn't get it out fast enough. Yeah, they man, it was something insane. I don't think going into the game, I think that I don't think they were expecting a letdown, but I thought they definitely expected a more of a fight out of the Grizzlies than that. But Coach and I talked about it in pregame. I was like, man, I'm like they're not they're not small, but they're not big. They start. I think 6'8" is their biggest guy. Now, yeah, sure, Brock is at 6'9" ish is our big man starting, but they didn't really have anybody else. I mean, they had one tall, gangly white dude that shot threes, but he wasn't a down low presence. And I just felt like we matched up nicely across the board, and uh, and we just went out and just punched him in the mouth. To use the football cliche, and it was Brock that led the way. Especially, like I said, he got in foul trouble in that Montana State game and didn't even get to play really the second half. I mean, he came out, got his fourth foul real fast in Montana State, and then he went to the bench for the rest of the game because Coach went small ball in Montana State with basically Marcel being the center, and even Zay, to his credit, he tried to check back in with a few minutes left, and Coach ended up pulling him back off the sideline because he was like, "Man, it's working." He's like,
Yeah,
just gotta let it go. So Zay didn't even get back in. I think he had like 18 points though, so obviously he's one of the best in the conference, not taken away from him. But with Zay and Brock and these guys, we matched up really nicely with them. With the starting lineup, and they had no answer for Wisney. That's all there is to it. Like he's these last 5, 6 games, especially as you've seen as well, especially like down there in DU in that Denver game, where he really played just an incredible game, 20 something points. He had that monster rebound and kickback where Zay hit the three that was essentially the game winner. Wisney is just he's got that maturity now about him, and he knows that if he just takes his time and slowly backs his guy down, does a little spin, does a little spin, does a little spin, he can finish with the left, he can finish with the right, he can reverse it, and he's getting close. He's getting close to the basket and getting shots in off the glass. Where those first few games of the season, it seemed like he was shooting maybe a foot or two further out and trying to bank them in, and they were missing. Whereas now he's taking his time and getting himself right under the basket essentially. And when you're 6'9" and you're essentially doing layups, you better fucking not miss. And and he's not. And I think that just broke him. To have Brock dominate him the way that he was, and then Zay coming driving through, scoring a couple of buckets on his own. We were hit, and they were cold. That's you know that
it helps. It
that
helps definitely.
Sure. If they had been hitting threes and been hitting buckets, it would have been a different game. But they started off just absolutely cold. I think they were, what were they? 2 of 13 in the first half from 3-point range, 10 of 30 overall in the first half. So they just couldn't hit the fucking broadside of a barn if they even tried. And we were bored. We were rebounding everything. Think we out rebounded them like 45-29 or something, some insane number. And my boy Langston,
15.
15. Talk about a double double from a 6'4", a small forward, 17 points, 15 rebounds. Yeah, we rebounded everything they missed, and they missed a lot.
This is something I've been thinking about for a while because I'm sure you remember the Texas Tech North Dakota State games, especially. I feel like we were both by the end like they're getting good shots. The UNC getting good shots, just not making any threes. And it seems like since that point, they haven't stopped taking threes, but they're just like, you know what? Let's just take it to the bucket. It's much easier to get the shirt too. Because with what you're saying with Montana, they were cold, and I was thinking about it. We were hot, but also the shots we were getting were so like they were bunnies for the most part. A lot of those Wisney little post just lay-ins, Langston getting to the bucket, Isaiah getting to the bucket. They're just really high percentage offense.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Honestly, I mean, I'd have to check the stats, but I don't think we've shot the ball very well from three most of the season, and I don't even think these last few games, save for Marcel, what did we shoot? Okay, I mean, we shot 7 of 16 against Montana. I had to geek out and bring my stats.
Nice.
7 of 16 and 9 of 18. Okay, so 50% from three, 40%. That's pretty solid numbers. Obviously, if you shoot anything over 35, 40%, that's doing well. But I think those two games are probably the better 3-point shooting games that we've had in the last several. Even along the 6-game winning streak, I bet if we dove into the numbers, those are the two best games that we've had. Yeah, the Bears just haven't been lighting it up from outside. Zach Block was one of the best 3-point shooters in the nation. He's kind of had a little bit of a cold streak, you could say, but he hit a couple of big ones in that game. And Marcel going 4 of 6. That was the big 3-point shooting barrage that we've really had success from. Outside of his 4 of 6, we're like 3 of 14 or 3 of 13 the rest of the team. So it took Marcel getting hot for us to win that game, or else we were pretty cold from outside. Zay, has missed some shots. Danker has made some, missed some. But honestly, Langston and Reilly are the ones who've made the most threes the last few games. They don't shoot a high volume of them, but they're timely and they've been making them, which has been huge. So yeah, you nailed it. Bunnies is a great way to describe it. They're getting right there at the basket and high percentage shots. And man, why the fuck not? Like you don't have to. I saw somebody talking some shit online about Langston the other day about how he shoots like 64, 65% from the field, but that he's not much of a shooter. And I'm like, well, it sounds like he's a pretty good shooter to me. Because being part of being a good shooter is shot selection. And he's shooting a three when he's got time and it's open and it's needed, and the rest of the time he's driving to the basket and putting it in off the glass. So why pull up and shoot a jumper in the middle of the lane? Because it's only worth two. So you might as well put a high percentage shot up off the basket or around the rim and probably get fouled too, which obviously Langston, Zay, these guys, Brock, some of the best free throw shooters in the conference and in the nation as well. So they're just fucking smart. So sorry.
No, you nailed it. Like, why settle for the three? He's just such an athletic freak too. Like, to an extent UNC typically doesn't get. And now that the basketball, excuse me, parts are like really rounding into shape, he's scary. If you, sorry, I was on Ken Palm. If you just take conference numbers just through the 4 conference games, he's 5th in the country in effective field goal percentage at 67.3. So getting and making the best like of top 5 in the country in shot selection. So I think you kind of nailed it there. Who else? We haven't even hit on Isaiah. He you touched on him a bit. He feels. I'm trying to think of like an NBA comp, maybe like an Alex English, where like not so much in play style, but you'll just look up and be like, oh, he has 19 and 9. Like he's not like it doesn't. I don't know, but he also seems like that MPJ kind of freelancer where when the offense isn't working, you can just kind of go to him, but he never feels like he's taking shots out of the rhythm of the offense. So
I
I
agree.
don't know quite how to rationalize that, but speak.
I think he did. I think all of those comparisons are pretty accurate. He scored 17 against Montana and 18 against Montana State. I mean, he was our quote unquote most consistent, reliable scorer, for those two games. And that's one of those things what I love about him, and that's what you need is that guy. And Langston can create his own shot, but not the same way that Zay creates his own shot. Because as we said, Langston's a little bit more of a slasher, driving to the basket for the majority of his points. Zay will hurt you wherever. He'll pull up and pump fake your ass and shoot a three in your eyeball. He'll drive to the lane and you think he's going to go all the way to the basket and then steps back and then just drops a little jumper at the elbow of the free throw line. Or if he needs to go all the way to the basket, he can. And what's also really great about him is that about 6'7", 6'8", if he misses his shot, he follows his shot. And especially around the basket, he's got such a touch and such a feel as a shooter that he knows when he's going to miss. If he's putting one up close to the rim, he's already got his other hand up there trying to follow up the shot because he feels it come off, not right. And that's something that shooters especially, and that's what he is. He's and you're MPJ, even though I kind of fucking hate him, and you know that. That's a Purdue thing, though, and he's that's a fair comparison. I'd say that Zay creates his shot off the dribble a little bit more than MPJ,
Definitely.
more of a traditional spot up shooter, but still very similar in the way you're describing it. And he's just a man. What a great pickup. As a graduate student, fifth-year guy out of San Francisco, to have him be able to come in here and, I mean, he wasn't a huge scorer at USF. He played some ball, but it wasn't like he was one of their leading scorers. And what is he, like fourth in the conference at like 17 plus points a game? He's the top 5 scorer in the Big Sky. We've got 2 of the top 5 guys. 3 of the top 15 on the squad for the Bears are the leading scorers in the Big Sky, and that's why we in first. That's why no, the ball don't lie.
So yeah, actually, perfect transition. This is why you're the professional, Jacob. UNC 4-0 this year. They've been 4-0 3 other times in their Division I history. I did a little digging last night.
I like that.
In 2018-19, they were 4-0, lost at or versus Montana. 2013-14, they were 4-0, lost at Montana State. And then 2010-2011, they started 7-0, including a barn burner of a 57-37 win versus Idaho State. And before they lost at Weber State. And that 7-0 start, best in history, also the year they went to the NCAA tournament. So this might be boding well. We have Portland State coming up, who I don't know if you've gotten this vibe, but to me it feels like UNC has kind of established themselves as like in a tier of their own, beating then it feels like maybe there's the Montana. I still trust Montana State even though they're struggling.
Yeah,
and maybe like Northern Arizona, maybe Weber or Idaho State. And then it feels like the rest are just the same kind of. And then maybe Sac State's like a little behind. But it feels like there's no real just easy games along this Big Sky schedule.
No, you nailed it, and that's exactly what Smiley, and I have talked about a couple of different times. Even 1 through 10, whatever. It's every night is going to be a tough game. We saw fucking Idaho State come into the bank and take us to overtime. It took an overtime shot by Langston and a missed 3-pointer at the buzzer. Honestly, which if a split second is longer, we lose that game. And then we're sitting at 0-1, or I mean 1-1 in conference going up to Montana, not undefeated. So, excuse me. Yeah, I think that I think across the board, it's a really competitive conference. And Portland State, on Thursday night, it's not going to be an easy game. They're 2-1 rather. I think their one loss is to Sacramento State. If I'm
I
mistaken.
would stupid enough. 100% it is.
So they're like one of the worst teams in the conference, but that was like a 3-point loss in Sacramento. I mean, but that just shows what it's like trying to go on the road. And we've been to Sacramento. We know how miserable of a spot that is. So
that $50 million in NIL money they have coming, they'll get the place fixed right up.
Better do something.
It was not to get us distracted. I was watching the Sac State Eastern Washington game, and it's literally a high school gym basically, which they had to have a door open to keep it cool. They had like a door open in the back to get some airflow in there,
opening and closing it just to keep a breeze going.
Like the most small town high school bullshit I've ever seen. This is hilarious.
That's great. but
So,
yeah, the Portland State game, man, 2-1. They're 10-6, something like that overall. So, I mean, how do you overlook a game like that? I mean, you can't. And then you look at Sacramento State. I think that's who we play on Saturday. And you're like, oh well, they're not good. They got a bad. Well, hell, they beat Portland State. So, I mean, if you lose to Portland State, you can't be sleeping on thinking that Sacramento's going to be a cakewalk. And hopefully, we come out of this weekend 6-0. And yeah, it's just I think we talk about the portal and the NIL money and all this and that, and I think that with that, these other schools like us, this like the Big Sky Conference, is able to build a program as well, because you could find those pieces that you're needing to fill your team, like a Zay Hawthorne, like other people may have been looking at Zay. Other people might not have been looking at Zay. But Coach Smiley and the coaching staff saw something in him, saw a player that they knew could help us in a spot that we needed help in. And maybe the other teams didn't need a Zay Hawthorne, but we did. And that's kind of, I think, probably how these other schools are out there, those Portland States, those Idahos. They know, these coaches are Division One, they're top conference for a reason, and you're able to build a competitive team regardless of whether or not you're a bottom feeder perennially in your conference as well. I think that just contributes to the parity in college sports, especially basketball, where one or two guys coming into your program can have such an impact immediately.
No, 100%. And it like that. I saw you quote tweeted it. Smiley's one of the best. I don't want to say one of the best in the country, but he sure seems like it at this level in finding guys that fit, that are like maybe miscast in their roles, with St. Thomas last year, Isaiah Hawthorne this year, and just kind of plugging them in and developing them in like that 1 year, and just kind of turning them around to Power 5 programs. It's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, great coach. And he would deflect. I would probably say, if we were sitting here chatting with him, and throw the credit off to his coaching staff, and that they're out there recruiting, they're out there looking for guys. I mean, I'm sure he's got his hand in that as well. But once again, that talks to like the Dorian Greens, the Coach Campbells, Coach Cloak, these guys, Reed, Gauss. I love just got you got to say all the names, because
I know.
it's a total family effort there. And they're all out there doing that, and they got their feelers out, and they got people that your scouts and stuff that are helping out, JUCO coaches and ex guys that have played with them and stuff. They're like, hey, this guy, that guy. But that, once again, that speaks to their character. If you've got a network of people out there that are trying to help you be successful.
No, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, I imagine you probably got to get going, but thank you so much for joining. We can find you. I know Stowaway J. Is there any underscores on Twitter?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. And what? Yeah, give us the plug. We have basketball Thursday and Saturday. You have the radio show in the mornings a couple times a week. So give us the pitch.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, brother. You can follow me on Twitter, me and my 35 bots. You can come join us and see whatever I'm going to put out there. Stow AJ on Twitter, or Jacob Govero. You can search that as well. And I'm pretty much mostly UNC love. I'll throw a little bit of Denver Nug stuff up there, and some other things, because I'm a basketball guy. But yeah, and then I do the radio show for 93.5 FM Pirate Radio. That's Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, 7:20. You can find me doing my show, and we did the football program, and then Bears basketball this weekend, Thursday night, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock tip off, and then Saturday I believe it's a 6 o'clock tip off again. So 2 6 o'clock games, no afternoon game on Saturday. So 5:30 pregame, six tip off. You can do Pirate Radio 93.5.com, or you can go online, go to pirateradio935.com, and click on the Listen Now button, or download one of your streaming apps, whether it's TuneIn, Simple Radio, Pirate Radio once again, and you can listen anywhere, as you know there. Your phone, your car, your mom's house, my mom's house, wherever you want to listen in.
Nice. Well, yeah, you can tell you've read that not ad, but you've read that a couple times at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. It's getting to be old hat at this point.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. If you like what you saw, please like, follow, subscribe. Go find Jacob on Twitter. He's a great follow. Throwing that UNC love all around. if you don't like what we're doing, let Ben know. He will probably ignore your message in his inbox. But as a wise man once told me, we will see you then, or we will see you another time.
Thank you, baby.